Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, and today I just want to go over the basics. It doesn't matter whether you're, a homeowner trying to work on their own stuff or a guy working nights and weekends trying to do, small engine repair. This is a great way, I'll tell you right now, for you and your kids to bond. And that is, tearing stuff down to see how it works and get it running. You know, Kids are inquisitive. So if you can pull them away from their phone for a little while to work with you on an engine, maybe you're rebuilding something. And they're also going to be a great help because if you need to look up something on their phone, they're familiar with that and they can go right to YouTube and see if they can't help you out. Maybe see this video, right? All right, so we basically got a standard run-of-the-mill, push lawnmower. Has a Briggs & Stratton engine on it, and it came in that they couldn't get it to start. So, what is our procedure on this machine? Good question. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is let's first talk about the tools. Just need a simple compression tester, pair of pliers, spark tester, needle nose vice grips so you can grip the fuel line. We've got to take the carburetor off. This is a 5/16 nut driver. Take the carburetor off. And of course, we have the 1/2-inch drive with a spark plug wrench on it, which happens to be, for this girl, 5/8. Alright, so, and you also want to grab a can of carb cleaner. You can get the Walmart kind. We like a stable, but Walmart works just as good. Alright, so came in and it doesn't run. Where do we start on something like this? We're going to start right here. First thing we're going to do before we do anything is we're going to check for compression. Just simply take the spark plug right out. As you get with a repair shop, as you get to going, you kind of can tell just by pulling it over by hand how much compression it has. And I'll be honest with you, I pulled it over and I didn't feel hardly any compression. And there's also hardly any gap on this plug. I don't know if you can see it or not. And it's got water on it. That's water. Alright, so with the spark plug out, we're going to take our trusty little compression tester kit. This came from Harbor Freight. You don't need to get into real expensive stuff. This will work for almost every application. They come with different style ends, and they do that so that it will fit different engines that have different size spark plugs. But what I'm going to do is just simply thread this into the hole. Okay, so we got to go smaller. That's why they give you different ends, so you can Just thread it right in. I keep the gauge off it until I have it in where it's snug. Alright, so put the gauge back on it. You don't need to watch the gauge. Just set the gauge there somewhere out of your way. And what you're going to want to do is pull this over 5 or 6 times. And I don't know if you can see that. Let me get this. Let me show you. This is what we have for compression. 25 pounds. Now, this engine will run on 80 pounds or above. It won't run well, but it will run. But it sure in heck won't run on 25 pounds compression. So if this were in my shop, this would be a short video, because this is where we stop, you know. Let me get this, put this away. Alright, so compression is always first. But what else could be affecting the compression on that engine? You know, it's not just the piston and rings. This has got an overhead valve. So, spin this off quick. Because we want to see if there's any slop or any play in the valves. Because if the intake and the exhaust valve aren't, you know, calibrated using feeler gauges to find the right distance, and they're open. Alright. So we want to go top dead center. So here you've got the intake and the exhaust valves. And what you're looking for in here too is to see if the push rods, the steel or the aluminum, are damaged as well, and are they sitting here? Do you have any play in it when you have it top dead center? If you do have play, then you just simply loosen the nut on these, and they've got, you can take and put a feeler gauge in here. Each engine is different. You can find it online. But use a feeler gauge to set the right distance on your valves. But here, these valves look snug. You know, there's hardly any play. So it's not the valves. The valves are fine. So that would make a short video if we stop there. But this is about learning. So let's go a little further. Let me get the valve cover back on. Now, don't be afraid to put a little bit of silicone on the valve cover when you put it back on if the gasket looks a little tattered. It won't hurt it any. And you want to keep it from leaking down, making a mess. Usually I'll throw a shop rag down here, but you know, alright, so we know we don't have any compression, and we know the valves are adjusted right. So now what? If it were in my shop, I'd be calling the customer saying, look, for what it's going to cost you to fix that, go buy another one. Because if I have to rebuild that engine, you're probably talking 100 and a half. And what are these? About 149 brand new? That's what I mean about being honest with the customer, okay? Let them make the decision. Treat every machine like it's your own. And I mean it. If you aren't willing to do it on your own machine, then you sure in hell shouldn't be doing it on somebody else's without them having a say of how you're spending their money. Okay. Couple things that I want to show you is, if you look on this, if you're trying to, get parts for this, this here that's on that is for the body. And if I need engine parts, you have to look elsewhere. And that's right here on the front. And it gives you the serial number, but it also gives you the engine model. And that's the number you're going to need for any parts for the engine, because these push mowers come, get this going here. These push mowers come with a number of different engines. It's just not this one Briggs engine. It could be, a Honda. It could be, whatever that company decides to throw onto their push mowers at the time. So if you go by the chassis model, that's going to get you like the blade number, the belt, the wheels, handlebars, that kind of stuff. But if you need parts for the engine, you have to go by the Briggs number, since this is a Briggs and Stratton. And that's a sticker right on it. Okay, so let's say we had compression, all right, and the valves are good. What do you do next? Well, next thing I check is the oil. And why am I checking the oil? Well, I want to make sure there's something in it before I try starting it. And that's good. But what I also am looking for, is there any gas in the oil? And I'm not smelling it. But if I were smelling gas in the oil, then what I could simply be having an issue with is having like fuel coming in and into the cylinder head and not allowing it to pull over. Or if I'm trying to run it and it does start per se, but it smokes like crazy, good chances are your fuel, your needle and seat aren't working properly, and it went down into the base of your engine. But alright, so compression's good, valves are good, oil's good. We go to air breather. I mean, this is just oil soaked. And that's a good indicator that there's something more going on with it than just the carburetor, which we already know because we don't have any compression. But we don't want to stop there if we have compression. Check the fuel quick. Fuel's a little old and she's gonna have to be drained. But just simply take this piece here, What is that? That's 5/16. Now, I'm going to use this, but don't use this when you're putting them back in. I mean, and you got to be careful you don't twist your nuts and screws and all. bringing out my 1/4 inch. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I've got 2 cameras going and I'm trying to do the best I can with my filming and my editing. But I'm just simply taking out this last one here. One more right here. And on these, they're 2 different sizes, so because this one here is a 9/32 set for the smaller ones and 5/16 for the bigger ones. Oh, look at this. Maybe a little faster here. Well, yeah. Okay, now this will slide down out of the way. You just pull, it's the air breather off from here. Alright, so here's the carburetor, and you got the fuel coming in. We've got the fuel shut off. And just pull the fuel line right off the carburetor. Just like that. I just tip it just enough to get the governor to come off. Here we go. Come on there, you little bugger. Okay, there's the carburetor. You don't want to lose that gasket. Alright, so we basically got a plastic throwaway. And that's what I call them, but you can get kits for them. You've got well, I can smell that the gas is rotten. But just find a good place to lay everything out, and when you're taking it apart, lay the stuff down in the same order that you're taking it apart. For you guys that are just starting out, if you've been at it for a while, you pretty much know where everything goes. So alright, so once you take the 2 screws out, this is what you end up with. You can see here. It's all plastic. You want to make sure you get that cleaned up good. But what we're looking at is everything operational in here. And I would, if I'm this far, take the needle and seat right out. So you take that piece out, and there's your needle and then your seat is up in here. So just kind of spread those out, and that's where carburetor cleaner comes in. Is you want to spray all of these orifices. You could take this stuff apart, but normally it's not necessary. And then just clean everything all up. And then it's simply just putting it back together, you know, once you get it all cleaned up. That like that. You want to tip your carburetor just like that. You want to grab the rod that goes for the needle in the seat. Oh, come on here. That's what happens when you have fat fingers. Like that. Make sure the needle seat, you can blow through it. Can't blow through it. That's old school. And then you're just going to simply get it all back together, right? And just work in the opposite direction. And with you being this far, I would suggest you drain the rest of the fuel out. You can do that just simply by putting a container underneath it and opening this up. But I'm not going to bother putting this all back together because I already know that she's not going to run because of compression. But I wanted to show you guys how you can go about getting that. And if you need a carburetor kit for this, you're going to base it on the Briggs model number on the front that we talked about. This right in there, like that. But that's basically what we do here, you know, that we start with compression. If we have low compression, we go to the valves. If the valves need adjusting, adjust the valves. Redo the compression. If the compression is up above 80, then we'll go on to fuel and the air cleaner, which is just soaked. Throw away. And we'll put the spark tester on to make sure we've got fire. Because if you have compression and you have good fuel and you have fire and you have good quality air being able to come in, it will run. That's the four things that you have to do here in the shop when it comes to one of these. So hopefully that's helped you out on just simply working on, you know, a push mower. You can pop all this stuff back into place just by taking, well, here we are. That, slide that. Just like that. You know, putting the bolts back in it, etc., etc., etc. Sometimes, oh, come on here, girl. Sometimes it's easier to put the fuel line on out here. Just like that. And then take and pop it right into place, just like that. Let off that. Put in your carburetor screws with your air breather. This part here is going to go just like this. You want to make sure that you have the breather attached to the back as you're putting it in. Take your 4 bolts, put your 4 bolts in it, get yourself a new air cleaner. That's all there is to it. So I hope that's helped. Some of you, it's not that difficult. I don't want you to be scared off when trying to work on stuff, you know. The way we learn, the way I learn is by doing stuff. And if I'm not doing it, how do I know how it works? You know? You gotta get your hands dirty. Oh. So on that note, you guys, have a great day.